In a world defined by grand gestures and transformative leaps, Atomic Habits proposes an unsettling idea: the profound impact of the mundane. At the heart of James Clear's exploration lies a disorienting contradiction: the immense potential of the atomic, the smallest unit of change in a landscape obsessed with magnitude. Here, habits are not merely repetitive actions, but the building blocks of our identity, constructed atom by atom, unnoticed but relentless in their creation of a life. The book reveals a peculiar tension. While society venerates immediate sweeping transformations, Clear contends that these tiny, often invisible shifts in daily routines wield the real power to remake identity. It questions the traditional narrative of self-improvement, suggesting that action under the guise of motion, those futile gestures mistaken for progress, obscures our perception of effective change. In this realm, marked by smallness, the illusion of control unravels. Habits form and reshape not in isolation, but through complex feedback loops and environmental nudges, quietly altering the trajectory of our lives. The environment emerges as a silent architect of habit, often underestimated, sculpting choices with its subtle influence. Yet, this emphasis on minor adjustments destabilizes the perception of oneself as an autonomous architect of change. If the environment and these tiny habits hold such sway, where does deliberate intention reside? Clear begins to unravel a common illusion: the belief that grand, deliberate efforts are essential to transformation. Instead, he exposes the unsettling possibility that it's the aggregation of minute, unremarkable behaviors that truly constructs our character. If identity is indeed less the product of dramatic change and more the residue of simple, repeated actions, how do we navigate the tension between aiming high and starting small? Can identity be forged intentionally when the atomic size of habits challenges the very notion of deliberate, significant change? Herein lies the question that lingers. What happens when the familiar hero's journey of self-improvement crumbles under the weight of the infinitesimal? The four laws of behavior change expose a striking desire for control, masked as simplicity. Cue, craving, response, reward. These are not mere steps, but a cycle that ensnares. Habits unfold unconsciously, their power lying in their invisibility. They feed a deeper yearning, the illusion of mastery over ourselves. Consider the simplicity of reaching for a phone upon waking, a cue that triggers an unexamined craving for connection or distraction. The response is automatic, a ritual that ends with a dopamine reward. This cycle quietly secures its place beneath the veneer of routine. Unconscious patterns weave themselves into the fabric of identity. They promise certainty, a reliable script in an unpredictable world. Yet, the seduction of these laws is their promise to transform instability into familiarity, to offer a false anchoring in the chaos of existence. Control becomes addictive, a self-soothing lie that masks the chaos beneath habitual behavior. Here, people resist change, safeguarding these rituals that define them even as they yearn for transformation. Creating a new habit by following the rules feels like the ultimate exercise of autonomy, yet it conceals a deeper truth. The cost of maintaining this illusory stability is often the erosion of genuine self-awareness. The cycle, once comforting, becomes stifling, a self-imposed prison painted as stability. This psychological consequence shields the psyche from confronting the more unsettling truth: the vast, uncharted territory of self, dislodged from its sure anchor. Inversion, breaking habits, shatters this facade, inviting dissonance and discomfort. The control we clutch tightly exacts a price. It numbs the potential for authentic self-discovery. In leaning on these habit loops, we perpetuate a static selfhood, a self that favors the familiar rhythm over the disquieting prospect of change. What emerges is an existential cost, identity shaped not by conscious evolution, but by routine's relentless repetition. This prompts a deeper question: if the refuge of habitual behavior is dismantled, what new terrains might identity explore? The tension remains unyielding as we confront the comfortable cage habits create around the evolving self. In the intricate dance of habits, the architecture we meticulously craft can crumble when the illusion of absolute control falters. The belief so tightly held that habits grant mastery over one's destiny begins to dissolve under scrutiny. What once felt like a fortress of predictability reveals invisible cracks as the comforting rigidity gives way to unsettling fluidity. Habit stacking, celebrated for its precision, functions like a latticework of our daily life. But when the underlying belief weakens, what emerges is a sense of vulnerability. Habits once layered seamlessly now feel like layers of assumptions, each potentially exposed by the realization that nothing is truly fixed. The perception restructures, shifting from blind adherence to a cautious interrogation of purpose. As clarity sharpens, the ground beneath habit stacking is not stable but malleable, marked by the potential for reassessment. Each habitual action, rather than being a definitive step forward, is now a point of potential divergence. The illusion of control slips, revealing a terrain where decisions echo with uncertainty rather than resolve. There exists a philosophical shift without formal labels, a move toward acknowledging the inherent unpredictability of existence. The clear lines habit forming once drew begin to blur, opening space for exploring what lies beyond mechanical repetition. It becomes a landscape not of chaos, but of possibility, where identity is not anchored to the comfort of routine, but is seen as a dynamic force. Yet, with this insight comes an incomplete transformation. The tension remains unresolved as the realization of fluidity introduces both liberation and unease. Control was never about mastery, but about grappling with the existential nature of being. Within this tension, the self stands, peering into what habits obscured, now uncertain whether the terrain underfoot is crumbling or simply reshaping into something yet to be defined. Navigating the space between intention and action uncovers a subtle transformation within. Internally, the familiar pathways of habit lose their predictability, replaced by an evolving awareness of one's own agency. It is a quiet shift, not grounded in immediate comfort, but in a nuanced understanding of personal influence. Challenges in maintaining habits emerge not as obstacles, but as signposts. They signify areas where automaticity fades, revealing opportunities for deliberate choice. The internal landscape changes shape, influenced by the recognition that setbacks are not failures, but part of a complex interaction between intention and reality. Perception stabilizes in this dynamic environment, yet it eschews ease. It rests on the quiet confidence that adaptability is strength, not certainty. Learning from experiences, individuals recalibrate their strategies, embracing a fluidity that fosters resilience rather than rigidity. The interplay of feedback and adaptation becomes a guiding rhythm, one that acknowledges the shifting sands underfoot. Such adjustments do not dwell in triumphant resolution, but inhabit a realm of quiet empowerment. The sense of responsibility evolves, no longer anchored merely to habitual continuity, but to a broader understanding of one's role as both a creator and responder to their environment. Orientation shifts gradually, offering a perspective where agency coexists with unpredictability. Inertia gives way to intention, a deliberate dance where success stories serve as markers of possibility, not prescriptive paths. The external terrain, though unchanged, feels open to influence, reflecting an internal shift from compliance to choice. Thus, identity reclaims its dynamic nature, defined not by fixed rituals, but by the ongoing negotiation of self and context. Amidst this philosophical recalibration, a quiet truth endures. Change is constant, mastery is humility, and presence is the path. Possibility emerges in quiet acknowledgement,